Fast Break, 1979, starring Gabe Kaplan and Bernard King. Welcome back to Street Ball Strategies basketball movie reviews. So I've never seen this movie before. I think I've known that it existed, but it's hard for me to relate to movies that sort of aren't taking place right now, and that's my fault. That's like a fault, a weakness with me, is that if a movie isn't taking place relatively in the present, it's hard for me to relate to it, thus it's hard for me to sort of enjoy it. Especially movies that take place in like 2145 or movies that take place in 1742. Like, it's hard for me to get into those kind of movies. But even movies that sort of take place in the 70s before I was even born. But regardless of that, and trying to be objective anyway, the plot of this movie is Gabe Kaplan, who I've never heard of before, but played in the TV show Welcome Back, Kotter. He plays a deli clerk in Manhattan who has dreams of being a basketball coach. He loves basketball. He wants to be a basketball coach. I think he's in his 30s or 40s, and probably his 30s, because he plays basketball regularly with the guys in his neighborhood. So in trying to become a basketball coach, he sends like his resume out to just random schools throughout the country. And he's then contacted by a no-name university in Nevada who says, "I'm the president of this university. I want you to come be the coach for us, and you can pick your own players. Like, there's not a standing roster in place. You can build your roster from the ground up." So he goes around to his local neighborhoods and he recruits players from the local courts that he either plays with or have heard about.
A preacher, a jailbird, a pool shark, a muscle man, but the best guy on the team, a girl.
He recruits 4 of them from Manhattan, takes them to Nevada to play at the local college out there, and the president of that college says, well, if you can play and beat top 10 seeded Nevada State, I will hire you on permanently as the coach. So now the movie becomes about him trying to play and win against Nevada State so that he can permanently become the coach of this college. I like the plot of this movie. I like the idea of it, especially because I am kind of in that same position, that kind of same mindset in being like a basketball type coach. So I like that. I can relate to it. I do realize it's kind of done in Hollywood style, where, it's not, it's very unusual that some no-name deli clerk would get the chance to go be a head coach of a university, halfway across the country. I realize that's unrealistic, but it's Hollywood, and it's, that's kind of part of the appeal. And the basketball scenes in this movie are done pretty well. I mean, you have to take into account that, as far as I know, this is Bernard King's only movie. This is his only acting film role, and with the star of the team being Bernard King, even though he's known as Hustler in the movie, just a local basketball player from the inner city of Manhattan, just an inner city basketball player. The basketball scenes turn out to be pretty well done. The basketball played in them is pretty solid, and so that's very refreshing. That does help this movie a lot. If the basketball scenes in this movie were bad, it would be really hard to make it through this movie. But because they're done well, the play is done well, and Bernard King is leading the whole show, it makes this movie a lot more entertaining than it could have been. In terms of the cast, it's basically about Gabe Kaplan, right? Coach Green. He's coaching this team. He loves the game. He's trying to become a permanent coach. And he's very good in this role. He's very personable. I don't know anything about him. I haven't seen him in anything else. Like I said, it's kind of before my time. But as I was watching him, in my mind, I just kept thinking Billy Crystal. Like, I kept seeing Billy Crystal playing this role in my mind. That's how personable and how well he played as this coach. The rest of the cast is pretty much just the 4 players on the team that he brings with him from New York to Nevada, led by Bernard King, who plays the best player on the team, nicknamed Hustler. They all play their roles well. They're not great actors, as you would expect, but they fit, which is great. I mean, that's sort of the good thing about sports movies, is that you're not really expecting great, amazing acting. You're just sort of concentrating on how do they play basketball. Are they good basketball players? Do they make the basketball in the movie entertaining by being solid basketball players? And they do that. And while I don't know the director, while I'm not familiar with his work really, other than him directing the movie Midway, he did a pretty good job in this movie. It's shot like a Hollywood movie would have been shot at that time in the 70s. And the bottom line with direction is always, does the story come across the way it's intended in order to give you the kind of movie experience it's intending to give you? And I think it does. It's described as like a sports comedy. It's not really all that funny. I mean, it is kind of dated, right? It came out 40 plus years ago. And so, yeah, it is dated. And the music is super annoying 70s music with a lot of horns and jazz. But it's not really the movie's fault. It's just what was going on in the culture at the time. In terms of the movie watching experience, the way the director presents it to us as an audience, it's done pretty well. I don't have any problems with it. I, in fact, appreciate the way it was kind of shot as the rest of Hollywood movies were shot at that time. So is Fast Break a good movie? I would say yes, it is. It is dated, and you do have to be able to get over that hump of sort of the movie dripping in 70s satire, right? I would imagine if you are a teenager or in your 20s when you first see this movie, it's probably going to be difficult for you to look past the time that the movie is set in. I mean, it was shot in the 70s. It came out in the 70s. It's a 70s movie. And you see this movie in 2020 or 2021 or beyond, and you're a teenager or in your 20s, I could understand if it's hard for you to sort of put up with the sort of 70s vibe that is undeniable in this movie. But if you can get past the part that it looks and sounds dated, if you can get past that, if you can accept that, and you just sort of take in the story and the plot and just the movie as a whole, I think you will appreciate it. I think it is a good movie. I think it tells a good story. I think the script is done pretty well. And I do think it is enjoyable if you can get past the part where it does feel dated. Is it funny? Is it entertaining? Is it inspiring? Yeah, I mean, again, it's set in the 70s, shot in the 70s. So you're going to have to understand the culture at the time was different. The language was different. What was acceptable was different. This is definitely not a movie that culturally could fit into the Me Too kind of culture that we have going on in 2019 and 2020. It's definitely inappropriate for that. But for at the time when it was taking place, it was just how the culture was at the time. So taking that relativity into account, is it entertaining? Is it funny? Is it inspiring? Sure. It's just basically a good movie. There's nothing great about it, but in terms of story, in terms of plot, in terms of acting, in terms of entertainment, it's all good. Should you see it? Do you need to see it? Is this a movie you need to experience? No, it's not. There's nothing special about it other than the fact that it showcases what college basketball was like in the 70s, and also it's Bernard King in his only movie role. So do you need to see it? No, you don't need to see it, but it's worth a watch if you happen to come across it, and if you can deal with its 70s satire, the fact that it's sort of dripping in 70s and dated because of that. If you can deal with the fact that it's done in the 70s and it has that 70s culture, if you don't have a problem with that, then yeah, watch this movie. It's a good movie. You don't need to see it, but if you have the chance to, you're not going to regret it as long as you can accept the fact that it's made in the 70s. So that's my review of 1979's Fast Break. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this review, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you're notified of the rest of the movies on this Esquire.com Best Basketball Movie list. I believe the next movie on the list is Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell.
Freak of the week, are you in the mood to fly to the stars with Jackie Moore?
So if you are interested in seeing that review, make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified of that video when it comes out. And I will see you guys next time.
We East Champs, dog, get it right. Trust you wanna play, bring your ball and your knights, let's go.